Hello again, hope everyone's doing well. Today's video is going to be about the largest footy card purchase I've ever made, and it was at the start of this year, 2022, in about March, and it cost me $585. Now, if you watch the channel, you know that I'm pretty risk averse. I don't like spending money on risky stuff or stuff that's quite unproven, but in this case, I kind of broke my own rule. I still think it's a great investment for the long term, but it does carry a lot more risk than I'm usually taking on. So the card I'm talking about is the 2003 Select Scanlens Gary Ablett Jr. Retro card, and it's numbered out of 60 cards. You may not have heard of this card, and I think lots of people don't know about this card because it has such an interesting and weird story of how it was released. So I'm going to go into the story of the 2003 Select Scanlens set. It was a set where it wasn't in like a box or anything. It was a separate specialty release where of all the 16 clubs at that time, there was 2 players from each club, and like I said, it was numbered out of 60. You had to buy the whole thing at once, so 32 cards all up, and it sold for roughly $2,000 on release. So that's a lot of money, even more so when you're thinking back to when it was released. It wasn't actually released in 2003, it was released in 2007. So this is where the strangeness continues. Not only was it not part of a normal set, it was a standalone thing, but it was released 4 years after it was produced. So it is known as the 2003 Select Scanlens set. However, like I said, it was released to the public for sale only in 2007. Now, I have confirmed with Select. I emailed them and said, was these produced in 2007 and just retroed back to 2003 with the players and the stats and everything? And they confirmed that they were actually produced in 2003. And you can confirm that because cards like Wayne Carey for Adelaide are in the set, and he only played for Adelaide in 2003 and 2004, and he was well gone by 2007. So it was definitely produced in 2003. Why they waited 4 years to release it, that's a big question mark. It's a mystery, and I don't know the answer, but it does give this set a bit of mystique, which I like. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Some people, and I completely understand this, like only the very standard sets, like the Series 2 release of each year. But for me, this adds a bit of a storyline, similar to the Alex Rance and Tom Hawkins rookies. I like cards which have a weird history. But going into a bit more of the release, obviously it's a Select and Scanlens. Scanlens, if you don't know, were the preeminent vintage card producer. So if you look at people collecting cards from the 70s and 80s and even earlier, I believe, I'm not a vintage aficionado by any stretch, but lots of the very famous and expensive cards are Scanlens cards. So Select partnered with Scanlens in the 2000s to produce these cards which have a retro look to them. There's no fancy designs, there's no signatures or anything like that, because all the older cards don't have signatures. So yeah, it's a very simple design, and that makes the price tag of $2,000 seem very high, especially considering when it was released and the fact that football card prices weren't the same back then as they are now. But now you have more of an idea about the release, I want to be talking about this specific card that I purchased. So I think there are some pretty significant pros and cons, both of them, and I'm probably going to go through the cons first and then move on to the pros. One of the biggest cons is that it's a very unknown set, and this would turn some people off, and especially the fact that there's a bit of, I'm not going to say shadiness, but it's a bit of weirdness how it was produced in 2003 but it didn't release until 2007. And that's very important with this Gary Ablett card, because I bought it because it's one of his rookie cards. He has the base Select card from 2003 XL, which I really like, as well as his more standard rookie. But this was also produced in 2003, so this is his rarest rookie by a long margin. However, some people might have a problem with the fact that it was actually released to the public only in 2007, and they might say that this makes it less of a rookie than his other card, or just think it hurts the card's legitimacy in general. Thirdly, the expense. So like I said, I paid $585, which is the most I've ever paid for a card in my collecting career to date. To be fair, I did have to buy the Geelong set, as these are usually sold in a team set. Like I said, there are 2 players from each team, so I got the Gary Ablett, and as an add-on I got the Stephen King, which I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with that one. It's numbered out of 60 like the Ablett, but it doesn't really hold a huge amount of value to me, so I might sell that or just keep it and keep the set together. but the expense is a big one, because people who bought this for a lot of money back in the day, they're not just going to be giving away these cards. So even without it being a rookie Gary Ablett card, it's going to be hard to take these out of collectors' hands for a small sum of money. And it is really interesting looking back at the forums from back in the day, because people thought this would age extremely well into the future, which is kind of funny now, because one of the main reasons for that was because it was so short printed. 60 cards back in 2007 was extremely low amounts. We know these days that that's kind of run of the mill these days. That's not super rare. And for that reason, I don't think these cards, without having that rookie status attached, are super special. Also, a lot of people who bought this had a big connection to Scanlens, and who were big vintage collectors and loved the crossover between the old and the new. So I think lots of the collectors these days wouldn't have that same connection, and that therefore it wouldn't hold the same kind of value for them. But now let's move into the pros. First of all, Gary Ablett as a player, he's an undisputed legend of the game. He's the greatest modern player of all time, in my opinion, and many other people's opinions. Going with that is the rookie card thing. That's a huge thing for me. Gary Ablett Jr. doesn't have many rookie cards. He has no cards from 2002. So don't forget, he was in the 2001 draft, but he was father's son. So he should have really had draft pick signatures in 2002 with the likes of Judge, Luke Bowl, Dal Santo, those kind of guys. But he never got that. So his rookie card is in 2003 XL as a base card. And that, for the Scanlens set to be produced in the same year as that undeniably makes this a rookie card, even though it might not be that simple to other people. But to me, that's just awesome, because no one knew what Ablett was going to be in 2003. It's not like he came out the gate and he was dominating the AFL straight away. He was actually more of a small forward at the first few years of his career. Like, he showed a lot of promise, but no one thought he was going to become the GOAT. So to have a card, to pick him as a card that is produced out of 60 in 2003 is amazing, and it is a bit of football history in my eyes. Now, connecting with the history aspect, the Scanlens connection is also pretty cool, like linking the modern select leading footy card manufacturer with the Scanlens, the old one, is a cool part of history. They also, they did the 2003 one, they also did a 2009 one, I believe, which were numbered out of 400. I'll try and put a photo up if I can find one. And I think they did one later, which was a horrible job. It looked like it was made in someone's garage. So that kind of means I don't think there's going to be too many collaborations in the future. But the 2003 one and the 2009 one are definitely legit. And that's a really cool combination of the old and the new. Finally, for the pros, I did say that this card was expensive, and that is a con of the card. But a pro of the card on the other side, if you look at it from a different lens, comparatively, it's actually not that expensive at all when you compare it to rookie cards for other great players. So let's keep in mind that this one isn't signed, but if you compare it to the new rookies from this release, like the Dacos Platinum going for $1,500 to $2,000, and you can get a Gary Ablett, the greatest modern player of all, for $600, then it does seem comparatively good value. Now, you do have to be a bit careful doing this, because the card you're comparing to could just be completely overvalued, which I think lots of the modern cards are. However, it does give me a bit more confidence in thinking how this card is going to perform in the long term. So those are the main pros and cons. And the last thing I want to say is it's not just any card. I actually bought his jumper number as well. So this is card number 29 out of 60, which for me is his best rookie card and the best copy of his best rookie card. So I'm very happy with the purchase. I'm not 100% sure that it's going to financially perform amazingly in the long term, but I think it is a great piece of history to have, and I'm extremely happy to own it. And the purchase that most reminds me of is when I bought the Dangerfield Platinum jumper number SIG in 2016 or 2017 back in the day, and I bought that for $300. And when I first bought it, I had a bit of buyer's remorse. I thought I overpaid, but over time and seeing how things have grown, both in the player Dangerfield and his legacy, and also the footy card market in general, it shows that having confidence in your judgment, as long as you do your research, can really pay off in the future. So that's all I've got to say about this purchase. Let me know if you think I overpaid, underpaid, or how this card's going to go in the future, and I'll see you next video. Cheers.